Alright, it's 6:30. I'll bring the meeting to order. First up on the agenda, modifications and changes. Anybody have any modifications or changes? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public that wants to speak tonight? Good evening.
Hi. I'm Diane Leary, I live on Church Street. Moved here in September, and there's been a lot of cars going really fast down Church Street. I'm at the end towards Maple Park. But there's been cars, and I know this isn't anything new, but but I just thought I'd bring it up again. It's been an incident. I think it was Saturday, July 2nd in the morning, where the car was even like burning rubber and left marks on the street, and my neighbor Gail actually called the state police. So they are aware of it, but it just seems like it's still an ongoing issue, and I'm concerned for the safety of, there's a lot of little kids on the street and pets that are out, and I don't know what you can do about it, but I know I'd love to have speed bumps. I know that's expensive, or the speed sign, it tells people how fast they're going. I think it's 25 miles an hour, and it's all different times of the day. I know I can, if you need more details, I can pay more attention and keep track of it.
Gary, how hard would it be to put in one of those lighted sign poles just so we have the option of moving one of them over?
We have an anchor, we have extra anchors, so always gonna drive an anchor and just move one of those signs.
Yeah, maybe that'll be an option. We have a couple lighted signs.
It's kind of been a sleeper street, so that might be a good idea.
Right, yeah.
It's not too sleepy right now.
Well, none of them are,
Yeah.
but yours is a sleeper street
Yeah.
in comparison to some of them.
Yeah.
Just for your information, I talked to the sheriff department last month. They did 76 tickets in Village Enosburg.
76 what year?
Tickets, speeding tickets. That's not village wide.
Well, I had gone and talked to all of them last year, and they did, I said, just come and sit there for a few minutes. If you can't do anything else, just come and sit on Church Street. And they did, and I've seen them now, they're coming and going around Maple Park. And so there is a presence, but I said, if people pass the word around that there's cops
Right.
on Church Street, see, they like to avoid Main Street.
Right.
They like to
We,
storm.
We had sent all the data from the two signs to Sheriff Lundevan to look at for the.
Have you heard back from him yet as to what he found?
Well, I had information on how, we get the percentile of how many are over 33, 35. Like the average, like on Water Tower was 8 percentile was like 41 miles an hour, or 38 miles an hour. Orchard was probably like 38 miles an hour. It was up in the high 30s and low 40s. But there were some that were over 50, a few here that were over 60, but a majority were in that 35 to 40 mile an hour range.
Yeah, before we get into full blown, we're way off topic here with stuff, but on that subject, I'll just let the board know that I have requested that Sheriff Langevin make some time in the near future to come in and talk with you guys about the data that Gary sent to him on Orchard Street and Water Tower Road, and so that we can formally have a discussion with the sheriff about that. He hasn't gotten back to me as to an actual date when he can come into a meeting yet, but I have requested that he give me some dates that he could possibly come in and discuss that data with you.
So that'll be helpful.
I had talked to him too last year. And I told him I was very grateful to see those sheriffs sitting there, even if it was for a few minutes. And he mentioned the signs at the same time that I talked with him. Yeah. So that's a good thing. How much are those signs?
About 4,000
Oh,
apiece,
yeah.
if I remember right. That's the flashing electronic
Yeah.
speed signs. Yeah.
They don't take a picture of the license plate. These aren't the
No.
ones that take a picture.
No, they'll just tell you how fast you're going.
Yeah, those are probably double the price.
Mm.
The ones that take a picture of the license plate.
No, don't know about those ones.
I think even some of the cars that were going fast on the street didn't even have license plates.
Oh,
Well, actually, you're not wrong. I've gotten some correspondence from Sheriff Langevin that indicated they had found one of the more obnoxious people that were, burning rubber around 4th of July weekend in the village, and that car did not have any license plates on it, but they found the person that it belonged to.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, so I think going forward, maybe it'd be a good idea to add Church Street to the rotation with flashing lights, flashing speed signs. That way we always have the option of, we can rotate it back on all the Trouble Speech, Orchard, Water Tower, Pleasant, Church. We can just kind of keep them
Yeah,
rotating.
just give you that this month, finish up one data for those streets, and we can change it over, and, 1st of August.
Would be appreciated. We also live on Church Street.
Me too. Was it a plan to buy?
Neighbors.
To buy more, just start out with a couple and then?
Well, the board didn't really get that far. Last fall, the village was given some money from our state government
Mhm.
as kind of a gift, because the state had done better fiscally than they had thought they were going to during the course of the pandemic. And as a result of that, VTrans, which is our state's agency of transportation, gave out extra money to all the municipalities in the state to sort of share some of the windfall that they realized they were going to have coming into the last quarter of 2020. So the board, considered, well, what should we do with that additional money then? And they decided to buy 2 of these flashing electronic speed signs as sort of a start, but and so we installed those this past spring. And I guess, we'll see if the board wants to pursue purchasing more next year, and that's kind of up to them. As I said, they aren't cheap, they're about $4,000 a piece, so.
Yeah, there are several different, lot of different ways of looking at this speeding issues, and also the noise too.
All
That's,
the towns are having that issue.
yeah.
Montgomery
But this does
and
collect
other-
data, so that it'll be something for us to use.
Sure, yeah.
Montgomery and other communities have put up the flashing, what your speed is. We've noticed from only being here 5 months that there's a lot more in a lot of communities than we've ever seen. So maybe they all took advantage of it too.
Yeah, maybe.
How much would speed bumps cost?
It's expensive, depending on what you got.
That's pretty
And
expensive.
it's kind of hard to plow, but it's a hard plowing issue too.
Oh, I guess we'll get plowing this year.
Yeah, that's probably easier if you live down south and you don't have to worry about snow so much, but it's really hard to plow around a speed bump in the winter time.
I used to live in South Burlington in a townhouse development, and they had speed bumps going back. And I almost think in the winter they had something that they could take part of it off so it wasn't as, I think it was,
They may have, and if it was, as you're describing, I'm imagining that wasn't a public road, it was probably a private drive. If it was a townhouse type of development. So they may have had some of, their own maintenance people that could do that, with the resources that we have and all of the roads and sidewalks that our crew has to plow in the wintertime, every time it snows, because it doesn't matter if you get, a foot or an inch, you still gotta go out and plow it. It would be really difficult for them to, make those kinds of maneuverings, have to get out of the truck, take equipment off and stuff in order to get around speed
I think
bumps.
in the winter they take it off. I think it was,
There are some movable bumps, but they're pretty expensive. You attach them and unattach them. They're like rebarred down and stuff.
Yeah, that option had been discussed too, but
Yeah,
it sounded a little too hard on our equipment. So. Okay, is there any other public comment?
Well, I think we were told we were third on the agenda.
Yeah,
We
you're
considered
an
public-
agenda.
you're on the agenda
Okay.
for.
All right, we'll get to that. Next up on the agenda, review and approval for minutes, June 22nd, 2021. Everyone got a chance to look those over, and there weren't any errors. I'll hear a motion to accept them.
I'm over it, so.
Sandy with the first, say
A
second.
second.
That was the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Unanimous. Okay, up next, request for Church Street sidewalk repairs with Wilma Swank Pitzer and David Haskins. Good evening.
I think everybody's got a copy of the letter that I submitted and pictures of what the sidewalk, the condition of the sidewalks and, today I was visiting with my neighbor over here and she pointed out that there's a gentleman in a wheelchair that actually had to get out of his wheelchair to get up and over one of the humps. He comes from over at Runway and goes shopping down at General Dollar and he uses the crosswalk and he's in a wheelchair. I have multiple sclerosis. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be walking, but that's not an excuse. It's a hazard. People are walking out in the street because the sidewalk is so rough and there's so many places where it's up, with neighbors pushing their grandson out in the road, people are pulling wagons out in the road. They're not using the sidewalk because it's just in such bad repair. And I did request 5 years ago and all they did was come and put asphalt in front of my house. And the blade on the snowplow is, as the picture shows, catching all the rising parts and making it even worse. And as you go in front of the Episcopal Church and down to Mrs. Epley's, it just gets exceedingly worse. So it's a liability for people falling and it doesn't look good, but it's hard to move on that sidewalk with the rise and fall of all the different sections. The only good parts are when Vermont Gas put in gas to our homes. They put a decent sidewalk, one slab for each home that got Vermont Gas.
Unfortunately, that's probably not the only section in town that's in that bad a shape. I will say though, we have been trying to keep up on them. So every year we budgeted quite a lot of money and sidewalks are not cheap stuff.
I came 5 years ago. I mean,
Right.
5 years later, you're doing Lower Church Street where there's hardly anybody walking. We've got everybody walking to the post office, everybody walking down to General Dollar. There's people walking all the time on Upper Church Street.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that one. I'm thinking maybe next year we can
We
budget
aren't
something
even on
in,
the
but-
list. If you could assure me that we were getting on the list, that would be one step forward.
Well, all sidewalks will get done eventually.
So,
But there's only so much that we can do with our budget. And like I said, we've been keeping on top of it, because if we just, repaired all sidewalks, then 30 years from now, we'll have to spend an incredible amount of money to redo them all, they'll all be done at the same time, So we're trying to phase them all in. We did this year because the road is getting paved as well. So I would say next year we'll probably keep working our way up towards Bismarck.
because originally we thought we were gonna pave all of Church Street, but because of the
Right.
budget, we didn't.
Right.
And I mean, the reason we didn't do that street, because there was one good sidewalk on one side. Up here, there was no good sidewalk on either side of Lower Church. Again, we only had so much money to work with.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just this little strip right here was what, $53,000, so it would.
It costs about $60 a linear, well, based on the bid we had last year, it's about between $60 and $70 a linear foot for everything. Concrete, blacktop, it's about $60, $70 a linear foot for a linear sidewalk. So up there is I just kind of Googled it, from, not including the ones that's some stuff removed, from Pearl, about 300 feet up, there's no sidewalk. So about 900 feet of sidewalk from basically by, I think the guy's name, we can't remember his name now, the guy used to own the Brought Lockers. Paul Michaels, from Paul Michaels to the top of Bismarck, about 900 feet. So you're looking at about, roughly about $54,000 to $60,000 to fix that sidewalk.
54.
About the
Roughly.
same as this project.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically per foot. I used the per foot price that was on this project.
And we're budgeted 50,000 a year?
No,
Right.
25.
Yeah, some years we haven't even budgeted that much.
I think it was only 10 last year, if I
Right,
remember
But we
correctly.
had 50.
But we
Yes.
had, we
We
had
had
some
50, yeah.
savings in the sidewalk fund that we had saved up for a couple of years. And so this year, because we knew from our estimate how much we were gonna need to do these two sidewalk areas, we knew we didn't need the full 25,000, so I think we did it, you're right,
It was
Abby, at
10.
10,000 this year.
This might be a stupid question, but what would it take to increase the budget to have more money for that? It would go into the taxpayers town meeting, the budget.
It's not hard to increase the budget, but a little here and a little there equals a lot. And it's also one of those things too, where a lot of times most of our projects are financed over a certain period of time. So it not only affects the year that you do the budget, but also could be the next 12 years after that. And if you have a couple projects within that 12-year span, and they'll add up and they'll add up and they'll add up, next thing you know, you have a pretty major budget. And then you get people coming in and saying, why are the taxes so high? And well, we have newer sidewalks and roads, so like we're just trying to get it all in a nice cycle here. We're phasing stuff out, and that way not everything's all run down at once. So
Was there ever a plan to throw up that sidewalk on the east side of Church Street? I heard that
Yeah,
there was,
yeah, there was a portion of it, the section that,
300 feet that was thrown up, you know, like,
I know, yeah, but I heard, and it's just a rumor, but the whole, maybe that's why, you know, the village isn't doing that, because it's gonna be
I know we talked about over on Pleasant Street was almost under that side where Mrs. Diaz is about throwing that one at one time. We mentioned that as an idea, but that was never done either. That's in bad shape too.
Oh, okay.
the west side of Church Street is still in decent shape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the west side. We all, Steve Como, everybody that walks the post office, we're on this side.
Yeah.
And that's the Methodist church, you got the Episcopal church on the east side.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing that we'll be able to do this year because we didn't set aside any extra funds. But it's on the list. It's up there.
Well, I was told in the office that that side of the street is not on the list.
I don't think there actually is a formal list of
We have a bunch of
projects. I mean, it's basically
We have-
whichever one is in most disrepair.
Yeah, we have Church Street and Cisco, Pleasant.
She went and grabbed the list and said we weren't on it. So there must be some sort of list, because she was reading down through and said, no, you're not on it.
Unless they looked at the current proposal that we have out there right now to see that
Maybe.
it's not in this
Not
project.
this year
But
project.
we don't have any
Yeah.
formal list for what's gonna happen in the years to come.
No.
yeah.
It's
I
all
think
about-
maybe that,
It's probably looked
I
at,
think that's what probably happened, what Abby said, was probably she just looked at, you know, what we were doing for this year and said, no, you're not on it, because she knew that section on Church Street ended at Pearl. Maybe that's where the comment came from, because, you know, during the course of the year, we get, like, as you're doing, we do get a number of people that will come in and say, you know, I want you to make this a priority. This is a really important project to me. And it's this board's task to, you know, try to mitigate the fine line between the desires of the businesses and residents in the community and the financial status that we are as a municipality here, and make, you know, financially responsible decisions so that we can eventually get to all the major priorities that we have, but not push the tax rate so high in any one given year that, you know, becomes unaffordable for people. Which kind of gets back to what Sam was saying, you know, sometimes people don't realize when you're doing a project in 1 year, it doesn't necessarily mean that that project got paid for all in that year. Oftentimes, especially with large road projects or sidewalk projects, you have to finance that over multiple years, sometimes 10 years, maybe 15 years. It all depends on, you know, what the board ultimately decides. But if you get too many of those kinds of projects all riding on top of each other, your tax rate can start to escalate very, very quickly, and there's no way out of it once you've done that. You know, once you've entered into a 12-year or 15-year bank note, you're locked in. You're not going to be able to get out of that. There's no way you're going to be able to decrease your tax rate until that note gets paid off at the end of that term. And that's kind of what Sam was getting at. It's trying to, you know, prioritize those things, but also make financially responsible decisions on the behalf of everybody that's here in the community.
I wasn't just speaking for me, I was speaking for everybody that uses Church Street.
Yeah,
Use the word
understood.
me. I'm not just speaking for
Well,
me, I'm speaking.
you're here talking to us, that's what I meant.
Right, I am, which I did 5 years ago and nothing's been done. And I pay more taxes than everybody around me because I'm only here out 5 months and I'm considered non-residential. But my family's been in that home over 70 years. And I don't see that you're promising that next year we'll get on that list. So we're gonna have a crappy sidewalk and somebody's gonna get hit out on that road. You talk about the speed. You've got people that are walking in the road to avoid the sidewalk. My neighbor tells me that a kid was being pushed in a stroller and going over one of those bumps, the kid fell and got a split chin out of it, which I wanted her to come and say that so it wouldn't be secondhand. She tells me that this man is having to get out of a wheelchair, a handicapped person, and you've got a sidewalk that a handicapped person can't even move on. So I'm speaking for everybody that uses those sidewalks.
Yeah, I understand your frustration, I do get it, but like I said, it's, a lot of it's financial concern. And also, we have a fairly large village, area-wise, and there's a lot of sidewalk.
When do you make the decision as to what's being done?
So that would be usually, I believe it's January, starts and it ends the end of February, sometimes runs into March.
Yeah, the board starts its discussions on budget, the beginning of January. And we try to have an approved budget by the board by the end of the first week in February. Staff is working on it way before then. Staff starts working on getting, preliminary budgets and figures together, usually around mid-October. The staff spends, a couple of months putting together budget figures, but it takes that long to get everything together so that a board has a preliminary budget that they can look at, and they start going through those figures at the beginning of January.
You told me you had made copies for all the members of what I submitted as far as the pictures of the condition of the sidewalk. I know you try to walk it, Sandy, so you know.
Oh, I walk it every day.
Yeah.
Also in the road, right? Not always, no. I walk, I mean, the sidewalk notwithstanding, I walk wherever I feel like. If I'm in a hurry, I might walk in the road, and if I'm speed walking, I might not walk on that sidewalk. Yeah.
I'd just like to say you're not alone.
Yeah.
The sidewalk in front of my house is terrible, but across the street, you got a nice new sidewalk. So if the people like going to Hannaford's, I'm right up on Elm Street. The people going to Hannaford's, if they don't like our sidewalk, they can go on their side of the street.
So are you telling me to walk on the other side of Church Street? My answer to that was, when my mother was living there, that you were expecting her to cross the road in the wintertime even, go to that much in front of the church and then cross back the road to get to the crosswalk to go to the post office. So she had to cross that road 4 times. We're taxpayers. We want a sidewalk in front of the house that's decent enough to walk on.
And we do have to go to the post office since mail isn't delivered on our
Right.
street, so.
Are you talking the sidewalk that runs from Church Street to Main?
That too,
No, that's the crosswalk.
That's the crosswalk.
That's the crosswalk, that one's included.
Okay. Well, there's one thing that we can do, is we can add that section to our preliminary budget. And we can discuss it in January. That's one option that we can do right now, but as far as getting a short-term fix on this, it's either lay some asphalt on it, which I don't think anybody wants to do.
Right now, we don't have the money to look for any of that either.
Exactly. But we can direct staff to include it in our 2022 preliminary budget, and we'll get some quotes together, we'll discuss it in January.
That would be appreciated.
Sound all right with everyone? Thank you. Okay, up next we have second access permit request for 495 Water Tower Road. So again, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this agenda item. I am related to the applicants. So Heather, I'll let you handle this one.
Are you?
So again, I want to look at it, it's about 300 feet south of, I'm trying to think the name of the person who used to live there. Long driveway,
Bill Donaldson.
Bill Donaldson's old driveway. come down towards, it's almost across from the old barn, but down in that little dip. They wanna put a access for a sugar pump house or a log landing. I looked at it, I mean, as long as they follow B71 standards, I don't see any problem with any stop site distance like that. Basically just follow the same rules we had before. I don't think they need a blind drive sign. Again, it's not gonna be where
It's gonna be very, very close to the other driveway anyway.
right, 300 feet below Donaldson's.
Does anybody wanna make a motion or further discussion?
Make a motion to accept their.
I read it, I'll second it. Sounded reasonable.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes. And then it's yours, so.
Again, I won't be in there as much as a other resident, you know.
Thank you, Heather. All right, up next we have Friends of the Opera House request for Opera House grant easement.
Sending her a text right now, something has happened and she has to call in.
For
Opera House.
Oh.
So do we want
Is it Susie or?
She just asked me now and I just said no.
Okay, so we'll wait. So when the phone rings, Gary.
As sweet as I always
Can
am,
you
I
pick
said now.
What do I do for like the speaker?
So you pick up the phone.
Yeah, and then hit
And then
intercom?
you hit the speaker button
Or if you just leave it down.
And then put the phone back down
Okay.
on the receiver.
Sometimes I use a speaker.
Right.
We just let the agency.
I think you do want to answer it just to make sure it's Susie
Okay.
and not
Somebody.
someone else.
That's when the
Extended
Pope will
warranty.
call or something.
What's that?
Somebody calling about your extended warranty.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It's about that
on the
time.
car you haven't had in 6 years.
Yeah. This is my first new truck since 1985.
We keep getting one on a Mercury that I don't even know how long it's been since we've owned it.
Seriously?
Oh, seriously. I don't think, oh my God,
They
that was the
didn't make
Milan,
Mercuries
and I
anymore.
hated it. So I didn't own it for very long. It's been a good 7 or 8 years since we've had that car, and I keep getting phone calls and letters about, you know, the extended warranty is gonna be gone in 2 seconds, and I better do something about it. It's like, yeah.
Mine is I gotta go because the Internal Revenue's after me.
I like it when they say, oh, you can refinance your student loan.
Wow. Susie says it's going straight to the answering service.
Do you want to just put your phone
Huh.
on speaker?
Right? Go.
Well,
That's true, she got it in the phone.
Yeah,
sure.
Here.
Tell her to,
Unless somebody calls her, maybe we should be okay that way.
Like, you have to go speaker with cell phone maybe?
yeah, what's her phone number?
I'm sure she's at 363.
363
363 7260.
72.
7260. And you all have the easement paperwork.
I've noticed you saying we're replacing some sidewalk in front of the Opera House.
I noticed that. Are you getting rid of that?
36.
363
7260.
363.
Yeah, I give that puddle, so we're gonna pour that, I believe, tomorrow.
That's good, because there's one sidewalk I don't like to walk on, because I do go out in the road, because I'm in water up to my ankles.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
terrible.
hopefully we pave it, there won't be no more puddles.
Yeah, we gotta pick that up, though.
All right, Susie?
We're picking that sidewalk up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
look
John
at this
Howell.
leveling it.
So I'm gonna put you on speakerphone, okay?
Looking at that.
All right, hold on. Can you hear me, Susie? Susie?
Hello, Susie.
If that doesn't work, I'll call her on my
Didn't seem to hit it right. On 802.
363 7260.
Yep. Hold on, I don't know why that didn't work, but hold on.
Broken phone.
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
broken phone.
the- Okay, I think the speaker button on this phone isn't working.
I'll see if I can use my cell phone.
All right, but she said she's gonna come down.
Oh, okay, I thought she was in Franklin. If I had known she was in town, it wouldn't have been so nice.
All right, we'll skip over her for a minute until she shows up.
So that phone, I'll have to get that phone. Yeah, that speakerphone, it used to
I
work,
thought it worked, yeah, we used it for.
but it wasn't clicking in.
Yeah, the light wasn't lighting up that.
No.
Time
Sorry,
for a new
Cindy,
phone.
go ahead.
Lincoln Park Permit Request Abundant Life Fellowship.
So if the board flips in your packet, you'll see an application to use Lincoln Park. This was put in by the Abundant Life Fellowship. They have held events here around the same time period in July or August of every year, with the exception of last year because of the pandemic. Usually they have done dances with a live band. So this is a slightly different
This
twist.
looks like they're giving away back to school clothes and
Yeah, it
school
says-
supplies.
So
which
this
they've
is a
done in the
little
past.
bit different. It says giving away back to school clothes, supplies with food and music. So it looks like they're doing maybe kind of a charity type event.
That's what it sounds like.
Mixed with the music and dancing. So slightly different twist to it, but sounds very similar to what they've done in the past. Staff has no issue with the application, and if everybody else is okay with it on the board, would recommend approval.
Are we grouping the park use permit with the bandstand permit, or are we doing them separate?
You can group them together if you'd like. It's for the same event. It's just,
You just need the bandstand for to set up the music.
right, and sometimes they have a band on the bandstand as part of their event as well.
Oh, and that will help draw the people and
How's that for
giving
us?
them more children that might not have any new back to school clothes or any school supplies that can get them that day, the better, I think. It sounds to me like a very charitable thing to be doing.
Excellent.
So was the only question of the insurance.
Yeah, we could require proof of insurance.
Yeah, and then there's also the insurance fee. I think they probably don't need an insurance fee on this. I don't have an issue with this either, provided they have
Provide a
adequate
copy.
insurance, liability insurance for themselves. So yeah, if you guys want, make a motion, we can group the bandstand and park permit in.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, either with Kirsten or Sandy with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, friends of the Opera House is
Because you gotta
here.
live close by.
Good evening.
I thought you were in Franklin, so I was like,
No,
oh.
and they're still, Chris can see they're still on their way, so, and you're running early, so it's perfect. So anyways, the Opera House applied for a grant that municipalities can't get, only nonprofits. We got a Paul Broom grant, which we are using right now to finish restoring stained glass windows that hadn't been restored and all the plain windows. $50,000, so it's a big shot in the arm. It requires a 15-year easement on the outside of the Opera House. So I talked to the lady, the only things that could possibly come up in the next 15 years is something around the front, if we got money to do that, which we've been talking about for years, so who knows, that would block the ice from coming down and landing on the sidewalk. It comes down in big chunks. We can't do ice guards because that would ruin the slate. And the right-hand side, when you're facing the building, the right-hand side, that entrance needs revamped. It's got a couple broken boards, it doesn't meet handicap, jump backs
Or the big one on the west side, east side, pardon.
toward,
Koreans.
yeah, Green Ryan's. So those are the only two things on the horizon, and she said, oh, we would definitely work with that. One's about handicap accessibility, the other one's about safety, so that's not a problem. But we need to have this 15-year easement, saying you're gonna preserve the outside of the building as a historic building. And the deed from the proprietors, Kendall Spavin Cure, deeded it to the town and the village, so your names are still on that, even though the town takes the responsibility and taxes the general fund. So your yay today would move it forward for them to have the last say on it. She was having a hard time with this 1893 deed in cursive writing and everything to come up with, because there's actually the Opera House plot and then there's another little sliver and she's trying to figure it all out. So the paperwork you have in front of you is the easement language, and the only thing that needs to be popped in is the correct description. If you say yes and the select board says yes and she gets the description in there, I need a signature from somebody from this table and somebody from the other table. So what I'm asking for tonight is a motion from the board to authorize someone to sign away from the table when it's finally complete. We're trying to work on a end of the month deadline for her to get that in place. The language is gonna go through the town attorney as well. So there's many safeguards, and really you're just kind of kicking the can down to them to do with it what they will.
Has the select board had a chance to look this over?
They're next, so that's why you're kicking the can down.
And this isn't a renewal, this is the first easement?
Yep, I think there was one many years ago when they did the major restoration. I knew that it's not in perpetuity forever. This one's for 15 years and it's only on the outside. And I did give her a heads up, I'm like, ooh, we're already in there, we're already spending your money, and these two things. She goes, oh no, we worked with you on that for sure, so there was anything major. And we all had the same goal to keep the building historic and in good shape, so.
Just a couple of comments. So you guys should all have a copy of this easement draft in front of you. Sorry we didn't have it for your packets, but Susie just got it, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday afternoon. Susie had just gotten this, so we didn't have it in time for the packets.
It's wordy.
Yeah, it's
Well,
pretty
that's why the
wordy.
attorneys want that.
I did have a chance to go through it this afternoon. Just a couple of comments if whoever is drafting the final version of this, but if you're having Von Como, the town's attorney, look at it, he's probably gonna pick up on this stuff anyway. But I noticed the name of the village is wrong, and that it's just referred to as the Village of Enosburg, but it's actually the Village of Enosburg Falls.
Okay.
That's the actual name of the village. And then the town's name is spelled incorrectly as well. There's no H at the end of any of the spellings of the town in here. That's just grammatical
Town
stuff.
should have an H and Enosburg has
Should have falls.
You might be
No
just
H.
missing an eye.
Right,
Right, and then,
the old H thing.
right, and then, there's a reference in here that I just wanna point out, again, it's certainly no deal breaker as to whether the trustees, want to sign the easement or not, but you might wanna think about this when you're cleaning up the language in here. There's a reference in here on page 2 that says the building continues to be used for town meetings. And I don't think that's correct. And
No.
It's been a long time since any town meeting was
Yeah.
held in that
Yeah.
building, so, you may not want to misrepresent that
Sure.
to the state government in that regard. And I think that was really it, just a couple of grammatical things and, that one sentence that maybe should be considered, but other than that, I didn't really myself have an issue with it. I didn't take this to our attorney, obviously, and don't know that there's really a need to if the town is gonna have their attorney review it. And I guess the last thing I would just say is just understand when you do sign this, you're kind of signing away all of the rights to the exterior of the building, and Preservation Trust will dictate what happens on the exterior of that building for 15 years. You just need to understand that when you're signing this. But, the village has really had a small role in the Opera House for the last 25 years or so, and the town sort of accepted responsibility for maintaining it. But as Susie said, it was deeded to both the village of Enosburg Falls and the town of Enosburg, so we are still one of the owners of the building, which is why we would need to sign off on the easement.
And it sounds like you're trying to keep everything as historically correct as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Doing a lot of work that really helps with the weather infiltration around the windows. You know, some stuff to put around it, taking out, like if you look through the windows right now where the leaded weights are, you can look right in and the walls are this big and they're empty. So they're just putting a little stop gap over that. Ben Weed's doing that work. You'd never notice it, but it stops the air from pouring in and whatnot. Anything done there can be reverted back to its original nature, so we've been taking those pains anyways. Yeah, like I said, the only thing that we need to talk about is this, someday we'd like to have something where we could be open in the winter. I actually think it's easier to get people out of their houses and into an opera house for an event in the winter than in the beautiful days in summer. It's a struggle to get people in. But the ice comes down and it lands on that sidewalk and it lands hard.
Well, it's on the heads of people going to the last town meeting that was held there.
Or maybe.
That's why it's not there.
It's my husband.
Yeah. And like he brought up, we've got drainage work to do at the grant work has taken a lot of work, so we got that. We've just applied for downtown historic tax credits. That money would probably go more toward programming because again, municipality can't do that. And then we're looking for a municipal planning grant in the fall we're gonna be putting in for, and that's gonna look at the whole building as a whole and say, these are the things that need to be maintained, these are the things that we think are some major work that you're gonna need to be facing 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Trying to create a master plan for that building so we're not always in the position of putting out a fire, like, oh, this is broken, we need to fix it, you know, whatever.
So the town is planning on doing that for this year?
We're doing the work, but that one is a municipal grant and it will go through that.
Right, that's a state grant.
Yeah.
And so the town is gonna apply for that funding for that?
They're gonna sign off on, and it's just the planning piece. Then when we have the planning piece, we can look at the chunks and go for implementation grants.
Okay, so you just need a motion to, you wanna accept this as written, or are you gonna have time
Just
to make
accept
the
that
corrections?
someone from this board will sign off away from the table, so I don't have to come to another meeting.
Kind of we agree to it. And submit it.
Right, so you want to designate who that person is as part of the motion, whether it's Sam or, it probably should be a board member, I think, though.
I can second.
His name's already on it.
Yeah.
It's not spelled right, but,
She spelled that wrong too?
yeah, it's missing an I.
Okay, I'll look careful.
But yeah, all right, I don't see a problem with that as long as the things that were brought up are corrected.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion?
All your motion?
I move that we dedicate you to be the signer of this grant easement and we say yes and proceed. I think that we're pretty lucky that we have people like you trying to watch out for the Opera House, which is something pretty special that not every community has.
And I'll second that.
All right, Sam with the first, Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right,
Thanks.
unanimous.
With correction.
Town with H, village with a falls.
With a false. Valancourt is not
Valancourt,
correct.
So yeah, whenever you're ready to sign that, and if you can just get a hold of me sometime.
Yeah, I'll hunt you down. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Good night.
Alrighty, up next, contract extension request for Church Street, St. Albans Street sidewalk project.
So Scott was asking for 2 weeks, I don't think he'll need it, but, because, as you see, they'll probably have one more floor, maybe 2, weather permitting, so I'm guessing the concrete will be all done this week, weather permitting. All I get left is topsoil and paving. I don't see a big thing, I don't see ECI coming here to probably August, September.
Right. When was their original contract set to expire?
16th this month.
The 16th, so Friday? Or,
Yeah, they should have all
She's
concrete.
looking for the end.
But they're not gonna, they probably should still get it though,
Yeah.
because he's not gonna have like the, the driveways and stuff.
Right, well, we have the driveway's poured,
100%
Tomorrow.
chance of rain
but
tomorrow.
the paving won't be done this week. What's that?
100% chance of rain tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Today wasn't great either, so.
No.
No, so hopefully they'll be done, but get any more floors.
It's not like he's gonna be running over by months, so I I don't have a problem with that. Do we need a formal motion?
Yeah, I probably should do that.
Make a motion that we allow them the extra 2-week extension.
I'll second that.
Alright, you have a first, I have a second, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed nay.
And we tried a new thing this year, we saw cut all the joints instead of having them on the edges, they're more smooth for like wheelchairs. So it's more friendly for wheelchairs and handicapped people, it's not that little, every joint's not edged and stuff, so it's not, you don't see all those grooves. We're gonna try that, see how that works.
Is it cut all the way through the slab or is
No,
it
it's
just
just,
enough to crack?
it's a control joint, so that's where it cracks. We have expansion joints every 20 feet, so if you know on Orchard Street, there's no expansion joints. And
Right,
when
they're
it's
all-
hot, no, when it's hot, the concrete was up one day, what, 2 years ago? Raised 4 inches. We had to cut it and bring it back down and put some stuff to let it expand.
Yep, more sidewalk stuff, never ends.
No.
Go back to dirt.
I think it's hard, I mean, I don't think we really, we really haven't kept up with the sidewalks and certainly.
That's the
For many
thing, yeah, I think
years.
we're paying for it now in the last 30 years of the
It is what it is.
Somebody else has to pay.
I know. Yeah, okay,
You guys, thank you.
thank you, Gary.
Good night, Gary.
Up next, bank signatory resolution.
So I have 2 out of 3 that we need to sign, and another issue we have to address tonight is TD Bank is looking for more specific language in their motion than what they originally told us. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass around the new signatory cards that are adding all of the new members and keeping who was already on the bank account, and I'll get Andy to sign the next time that I see him. This is for Community National, which is the most important one because that's where our operating accounts are. John, Sam, and Leonard, I will need an updated copy of your license. So if at least you 2 guys before you leave tonight, if we could do that, and then John will get yours tomorrow, and I'll get Andy's the next time. So if you just want to review your information, there should be, I believe, 2 places that everyone will need to sign on this one. Just review your information, make sure that it looks correct. If it's not, I see 2, there might be more. 3. So there's 4 for Community National because it goes for all of our accounts that we have there. And then same thing, I also have People's Trust, which is where our line of credit is. I'm not sure how the line of credit is set up now, of who has authority to draw off the line of credit. I know.
I think it's me and maybe Andy.
Okay, so I'll just need copies of your Andy's driver's license to give to them. I need that on file, but again, we can deal with that later. So
I think.
I believe that's correct because I did read the paperwork once. I know you're definitely one of them on there. So I'll pass these around, or if you want to sign them at the end or how you want to do it, but just flip through each page, verify your information, and please sign. TD Bank is,
Want me to
Yep.
pass these down?
yes, please. So the issue that I ran into with TD Bank is I need, I got John. With TD Bank is that we need a motion confirming that John, Sam, Leonard, and Andy are staying on it. It wasn't specific enough for them with just listing who we wanted removed. They would like a motion, and it needs to be in the minutes formally, that John, Sam, Leonard, and Andy are staying on the account.
So that's all I need, is that one
That's
motion?
all they need.
Alright, I'm gonna get that done right now. I have a motion to acknowledge that me, Sam, John, and Andy,
And Leonard,
and Leonard are staying on the TD account for authorized signatories.
I'll make the motion that John, Sam, Leonard, and Andy
correct.
stay on the TD Bank forms as signatories.
Alright, we have a first and a
I
second.
second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay.
Ye gods.
It was unanimous.
Thank you, and if you have any questions on the paperwork, let me know.
Okay. Yeah,
You should, I think, have 5 places you have to sign total.
so just right next to our name.
The one, yep, the next line over, and then it'll just be in the box right above our name as on the Community National. like to flip through it, because they're gonna have quite a few, this is for all the accounts. That was nice, I should have flagged it, but everybody's.
You wanna just go through this while they're packing up? Or no, we
Yeah.
don't have an executive. Yeah, we don't have to do it.
I think
We can do it now.
You guys take your time, it's all right.
You're actually doing really well
Yeah,
tonight,
way
so.
ahead of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just managers report.
Should I date today's date?
Yeah.
Writer's cramp before we're done.
I don't know, right?
I'm sorry.
Got quite a few accounts of TV, huh?
At Community National, yes.
One bank.
Yes,
There's too many of them.
pretty much all of our operating accounts are through Community National, our main savings accounts, so.
Alright, I think that's all. So it'd be, I guess, sign above your name and then date, the account.
Hopefully, community doesn't, change a lot more than it already has in the last couple of months.
Community National,
Yeah.
what changes? Is like.
Nothing big, just general philosophy seems to be quite a bit different. And I've noticed a number of people mention it to me, like, wow, have you seen, I've had this problem, that problem.
Oh, really?
Internet problems in particular. Yeah. Problems getting into accounts, problems, people that, have automatic bill pay with them getting paid
I
when
wonder
they're
if they
supposed
made a
to.
software change or something.
Could be.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
of course, it's, well, a couple of people that were there that were extremely local and retired. So that doesn't help.
Right.
Because, then you've got the newer people going, huh?
Right.
Did I hear something about the post office moving to People's Trust? Or is that just a rumor?
I haven't heard that.
To People's
I think that
Trust.
was,
Right on Main Street.
I thought that was the original place that the post office was gonna put the building.
See, that's kind of what I was
Then
thinking
the
too, because
bank
you got those
got
vacuum
built.
things.
Yeah,
out
way
back.
back when that was Frank Myatt's house. I certainly haven't heard that People's Trust is going anywhere,
Yeah, I haven't heard that either.
but I will go in tomorrow and ask.
You're gonna spread the rumor. Alright, is it just the three, no.
Alright.
Nothing on the last sheet?
I don't believe so. That's for the bank.
So it's just 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, there you go. You look for the last two. I'll try not to sign yours.
Much appreciated.
I better not, I'll do it all over again.
It's been a process.
Well, I tripped over
Sorry,
the
sure
cord,
you.
so I mean,
What can I say?
I'm not wireless.
Well, I have a question that's not work related that I've been trying to figure out. Where does one put in at Lawyer's Landing for canoeing? Do you park at the diesel plant?
That's
right. Well, it's
private.
It's intended to be a pull-out, a portage station for people that are canoeing, either north or south, up and down the Mississippi River. So there's no place, there's no place really to park to access it from that point that I'm aware of. It's private land. It's owned by the Lawyer family, hence the name of the property.
It's a hell of a jump down.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah,
like
They're, originally it used to be open a lot more when that was created as Lawyer's Landing, part of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail system. But they have a lot of problems with behavior, people doing things they shouldn't be doing down there, garbage and other stuff. And over the years, the lawyers seem to start closing it off more and more. I really don't know what what their policy is about that anymore. For a while, they had said they really preferred people didn't use the property anymore, but I have noticed this summer that there appeared to be people using it for canoeing purposes.
Well, there was oh gosh, you just mentioned the organization.
Northern Forest Canoe
Yeah, I
Trail.
think that was the organization that did a canoeing clinic last weekend. And they said to meet at Lawyer's Landing, but I just really want to use my canoe and not have to
Yeah.
drive far to
Go
use it.
down
Yeah, well,
to Brownway, the A. Brown Trail, across from the Missisquoi Cemetery. There's a beautiful put-in out there.
So is
Much
that
better
really
than the one
open
at
to the public
Lawyers.
to use? Because I've
Yes.
used that in the past and then I thought
Yes.
maybe I'm not supposed to.
You may.
You
Yeah,
can rent canoes there, right?
the A. Brown place is, that's supposed to be used by people. It's private property,
Yeah.
but they leave those trails open to the public.
Okay. And then this is the one that's really right across from the cemetery.
Yeah, well, you have to go down a ways before you
Yeah,
get
there's
to
a
it.
bit of a little bit of a dip, but okay.
But you don't have, when I got into the canoe at Lawyer's Landing, I thought I was gonna dump the canoe before I got into it
Oh,
because
really?
it was such a drop, and I'm a canoe chicken anyway, and it was a drop enough that it was like, no, thank you, not coming back. And I haven't been back yet.
Yeah.
Is it okay then?
Yeah.
Okay.
They used to allow people to camp on the property and stuff. This is years ago. But as I said, they were having problems.
And there is a campsite on the Brown property.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
There is
There is now.
Porta potty. Or something.
For a while, I think you can go to the Flying Disc and get a rental.
Still
Yeah, you
can.
can still do that, yeah. Yeah.
There you go, Lance.
There's Heather, if you don't mind going a little further downstream, there is the other end of that portage around the falls is at Island View Park. You know where that is on Duffy Hill Road? And that's village-owned property. And that's the end of this portage system around the falls. And one end is at Lawyer's Landing, the other end is at Island View Park. And that's a pretty easy place to put a canoe in. I mean, there's stone steps that you can walk down that'll take
When
you
they're
right
dry.
down to the river.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You know where I'm talking about?
I think so. I haven't
There's-
been there myself,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So if you take a right down Duffy Hill Road up here, go just a little bit past where the Bridge of Flowers and Light is, on your right-hand side, maybe, like 60 yards or so.
It's almost like a bus turnaround.
Yeah, there's a parking
Usually
lot,
people
a
park
small
there.
parking lot off the side of the road. There's a big sign that says, Island View Park, Village of Enosburg Falls there. And the village owns about 7 acres of land that are right along that river edge. And right at where the parking lot is, next to where the sign is, there's some stone steps that go right down to the river. So that's also part of that portage for people either going, upstream to use or going downstream.
I'd love to see something on the village side of the river for canoeists coming in. Oh, for instance, out behind the decrepit trailer. I'm sure you must know where I mean. The ungodly trailer on South Main Street.
Yeah,
With the ungodly tent in the back and the rest of all the ungodly stuff that goes along with it. But in that area.
just right up here.
Yeah. In that area somewhere, there was a spot that looked feasible, and I've stood on the bridge many times and looked, haven't been able to figure it out yet.
Yeah.
Who owns what and all that stuff. But that would actually be wonderful because people coming in from the north and the east would already be on the village, i.e. restaurant, stores, lodging side of the river, which would be, I think, ideal if we could ever manage to do something like that.
I think the town still has a lot of money left in the conservation committee.
Yeah. It's still all private property right
Yes,
now,
yes.
so. But interesting idea.
Can I circle us back to this?
Did we do it right finally?
We did, we just have to finish filling out the people's trust. There's 7 or 6 questions basically on here that we have to designate who has the authority to do what. So on this, the first one is exercise all of the powers listed in this resolution. And then who has the authority to open, revise, or close any deposit, repurchase, sweep, or share account on behalf of the village, endorse checks and orders for payment of money, borrow money on behalf and in the name of the corporation, endorse, sign, transfer, mortgage, or pledge bills, receivables, warehouse receipts, or enter into a written lease for the purpose of renting, maintaining, accessing, and terminating a safe deposit in the bank.
You can put more than one person on for each one?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, you wanna just run right down and we can add people?
Yep.
Are we gonna need motions for each of these?
I don't believe so, it just needs to be, John will have to verify that, I think it just needs to be filled out on here. Yes, of course.
This section.
Yeah. Because each person's name has a letter designated by it, and we just have to put like A, B, C, whoever we want to have authority.
Yeah, so this also includes people that can sign off on payroll, accounts receivable.
This people's trust, we don't have payroll or accounts receivable through, that's what this was. And I could probably try to quickly put my hands on the last
Yeah,
one.
probably should make a motion and should name everybody that, you know, is willing to be on there. You know, if there's only a couple of you that want to do it, that's fine. I would say at least probably the village manager and the treasurer should be on there at the very least, but there should be at least, you know, a couple of board members. But, you know, in the past, we've put all the board members that were willing to be on there, so in some years we had all 5.
Well, I suppose there could be an instance that something needed a signature and nobody could be found.
Yeah, it's possible.
You know.
I mean, we've run into those cases before where for different reasons, you know, we were down to only
Yeah, you make phone calls and nobody's
couple of
there.
board members in town on a particular week or something, because people are either on vacation or we have vacancies on the board or any number of reasons.
You need 2 signatures on checks, right?
We require, the banks don't require to, but we require 2
Yeah,
signatures.
it's an internal
It's an internal
policy.
control, the auditors require that.
Do we wanna just make it the manager, the treasurer, and all board members for all items? And then probably,
For the initials.
yeah, I think the director of finance should probably be included on some of those as well.
Yep.
If not all of them.
Yep.
We'll just do that, director of finance, treasurer, manager, and then all 5 board members,
I think
Listed.
that's good if everybody's willing to do that.
just in case. Okay, how do you want to do that motion? There's a lot of questions there.
Well, Abby read it. Did everybody understand it?
Yes.
I can pass it around again if you wanna read it,
So-
in depth, but it's the basic,
So if we add a motion,
to accept
Pass.
number 7.
resolution as read by Abby Miller, and to appoint all 5 board members, the village manager, the treasurer, and the director of finance. I think that'll do it.
Hello.
There it is.
Alright, that's the
Second.
first, and the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alright, I guess that leaves us with manager's report.
Okey-doke. So first, for the board's directive, at our last meeting, I wanted to let you guys know I did register as municipality's designated official for the ARPA Local Recovery Funds Program. This is the American Recovery Program Act related to the COVID-19 pandemic that the nation is currently going through. And I did certify that Enosburg Falls intends to claim its allocation under this program. That amount currently is estimated at $134,314.39. So that's not all of the ARPA money. As I described to you guys last meeting, you need to think of ARPA as kind of an umbrella, and there are going to be many different programs under the ARPA program that we could potentially get funding from. And this is one of them, called the Local Recovery Funds Program. So they have that information. I received confirmation back from the state that they did receive that, and so they will be holding whatever our final allocation under that program ends up being for us. So just wanted to keep you informed of that. Also, I was contacted over the past couple of weeks about Act 164. This is the new state law regarding marijuana cultivation dispensaries. Heather Moore, our vice chair, has asked that this subject be placed on a future joint meeting with the select board. And I did receive a bit of questioning via email about, just what is Act 164, what are the implications to the village's current ordinance that prohibits selling for retail purposes marijuana within the village of Enosburg Falls. And that ordinance was passed back in 2012. So due to the line of questioning that I received, I decided to contact our attorney and just try and get to the bottom of this and find out, okay, so what are the implications of this to the current ordinance that we have in place? So the short answer is that our current ordinance will stay in effect until March 1st, 2022. And so until next year. After March 1st of next year, the way 1 Act 64 will work is that that ordinance that we passed back in 2012 will become null and void. It's no longer effective. However, in order for an establishment to be licensed to sell cannabis in a municipality, the voters of that municipality must vote to opt into this program, this Act 164 program. And this vote must be done at an annual or special meeting of the municipality. So in a way, if a vote is never taken, then no retailer will ever have the possibility of being able to sell for retail purposes cannabis within the municipality. And in an odd way, that's probably the surest way of preventing that, if that's the objective of the board. I say that because you could take it to a public vote, but if the public votes on it and passes it, then there it is, then it will be allowed. If the vote never takes place, then the vote never happens, so they can't sell.
Does that also include cultivation and the other part of that?
That's my understanding.
Not just retail?
According to
our ordinance, specifically retail.
Right. I was told by our attorney just about that if the vote's not taken, you can't cultivate it, you can't sell it for retail purposes. Now, as you know, marijuana is legal in the state of Vermont now, so you can grow it for home use. But this act is specifically towards commercial purposes. So I just thought I'd give you a quick update on that, because I did get some correspondence over the last couple of weeks about Act 164, but that's the quick explanation on it.
I'm happy to talk with anybody here about where this, some of the stuff that I've been learning about too. Works for us.
What about Act 164?
So next thing I wanted to just update you guys on was the electric disconnect moratorium. You guys recall it was slated to end on June 30th. We were being told that people were pretty sure that was really going to be the end this time. However, that again did not occur. And the state did extend the moratorium until July 15th. We are again hearing, yeah, this is really gonna be it though this time.
We got 2 more days to find out.
Right, exactly. And it's happened before where, the day it was gonna expire, the state renewed it again. So we'll just have to see. I guess I don't feel comfortable making a call about it anymore. Because,
Nobody hold their breath.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know how much we have past due right now? Like how much money in accounts past due?
Can you recall?
Don't quote me to this, but I wanna say, I don't know, 60 to 90 range. I know it's kind of broad, but I've
60 to 90,000. $60,000-$90,000.
Yeah, that
But
sounds
that's
about right. I know.
across, I
right.
think all wastewater, water, and electric. Just electric, I think was around like 50,
Yeah,
54, I believe, for just electric.
I think you're not too far off, Abby, because I remember talking to Lori about that.
So what
about 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and she had said it was about 50 to 55,000 on the electric.
So the electric disconnect moratorium, does that also include wastewater and water?
The water was lifted in June, was it?
It was, but I think under this, did you see some of the correspondence?
I did, Lori did forward them to me.
Right, from the Public Utility Commission. So I think they're now folding the water into that again. There was a brief window when it looked like they were removing the water disconnect moratorium, but about 3 days ago, they enacted more legislation that folded the water back into it.
Not surprised.
I think they did that because some of the programs that they're rolling out haven't taken into effect, and they're talking about in the next couple of weeks rolling out another program to assist people with their utilities. The one that's out, the ERAP program that's out right now, is a very specific criteria. We haven't had, I think we found out today, we've had 6 applicants total for the village of Enosburg, and all of them were either denied or not fully, they didn't submit everything that they needed, so they're still in progress because they haven't actually hit our portal yet. And I know there's a meeting at the end of this week, the second phase of the VCAP program, which was very successful, is supposed to be rolling out in the next couple weeks. So there's an informational meeting, I believe Thursday, on that. So hopefully that one looks more promising than the ERAP has very, very strict criteria. Like you need to prove that you're either homeless or on the brink of being homeless, and that is rent, utility, and encompasses more.
And there are still applicants for the second program?
It hasn't rolled out yet for the second phase of VCAP. They're saying tentatively next week, but they have not given a solid date on that yet.
So we shouldn't expect the moratorium to be lifted until those programs are in place?
From the correspondence that I have seen, that's my personal opinion, a safe assumption, because they're waiting for they're requiring on the disconnect notices to have the contact information for the VCAP 2 program. However, we have not been provided with that information, and they will not approve the disconnect notice until that information is on there. They want to approve it with a placeholder and then let us go in after the fact. They want to physically see it on there. So my personal opinion, it's a safe assumption this is probably going to go till the end of July, but they may surprise us.
Yeah, so that's another, I don't know if you want to call it a trick, but it's certainly a tactic that the state has used where they could, in a backdoor way, force electric utilities to continue with the suspension of disconnects because of an administrative technicality that the utility can't meet. And in this case, that's what Abby has cited to you. They have laid out some very specific language that now must be included in an electric utility's disconnect notice to customers. And you can't send out the disconnect notice without that specific language. And part of that language must give the VCAP website information.
Website and telephone number.
Right, and telephone number as part of your disconnect notice. However, the state has not released that information to us yet, so we can't put it in the disconnect notice until the state gives us that information. And they haven't told, yeah. So in a backdoor way, even if they do end up holding to the July 15th date and don't extend it again, they've, in a backdoor method, really extended the moratorium anyway until they release that recap information.
Is there any parameters in which you have to release a disconnect notice? So say you send them out at the beginning of the month or the end of the month or whatever, and then all that information that we need becomes available a week after. Can you resend a disconnect notice with all that information on it? You have to wait for the next billing slip.
My understanding would be that we need to wait for that information, that it would be considered an escalation and it would fall back on the village.
Right.
It'd be pretty much a liability for the village if we were to send those out prior to or without the correct information on it.
Right.
That's why they're holding off and requiring everyone to get it approved.
Since we've done this before.
Probably once or twice.
Yeah. So that's the latest and greatest on the disconnect moratorium. Also wanted to let the board know that as things begin turning to near normal around New England, we have been notified that Northeast Public Power Association, which you guys may recall, I'm one of the board of directors on representing Vermont, one of 4 electric utility managers in Vermont that are on the NEPA for short board. NEPA has decided to hold their annual meeting in conference this year. As a board member of NEPA, I'm kind of obligated to attend that annual conference. So I have registered to go to it. It's a 4-day event. This is something they do typically every year. They canceled it last year because of the pandemic, but with things getting closer to normal around New England, they have decided to do this again this year. So it will be held August 22nd through August 25th in Maine. And as a result, I will not be present at the Board of Trustees meeting on the 24th, but I will still put together your packet for you and any related information to that. And I will, of course, follow up with any action items that need to be worked on when I get back as a result of activity that's happened at the meeting.
We can't make you Zoom from the beach.
Well, it'd probably be a little hard.
Not a bad time to have to be there, though.
Yeah, it's not actually going to be on the beach. It's going to be in Portland, but downtown.
Yeah.
There's not really a beach in the
not.
city of Portland.
Yeah, have to go to
So-
Southport.
Yeah, South Portland is, but yeah, I mean, not
Well, it's
that.
good that they're able to have it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is. It's a piece of the new normal, so that's great.
Yeah, I know it's people that are in the Northeast Public Power Association community, which represents all public power electric utilities across all of New England, all 6 states in New England. This is considered a very important event, educational event, also a chance to network with people and to get caught up on new equipment and services. They also have vendors there that give presentations, and so it's a good annual meeting and conference to go to. And I appreciate you guys giving me the time to go and do that and experience that. So, but I wanted to give you a heads up just so you know I won't be at the August 24th meeting. If you want, we can try to keep the agenda really light. Just keep it to very simple, basic things if you would like for that meeting.
We'll get done whatever we need to do.
Okay. And
Just a chance to sit here and talk about it.
right, exactly. So then, lastly, I just wanted to let the board know, you may recall that we filed a pilot program for a special industrial rate in our electric department for up to 2 customers that can meet that load requirement. And that has been approved by the Public Utility Commission. We got approval for that last week. I think that's very exciting. It's expected that Franklin Foods will most likely be one of those customers. And the program is good for 18 months, at which time, at the conclusion of that, the village will need to file another tariff seeking to make the rate permanent after the 18-month. And that, of course, will be at the discretion of the Board of Trustees if, once we get through that trial period, if you want the program to continue, then we'll have to file another tariff with the PUC requesting that they make a permanent tariff.
I'm assuming that the only other person that could be that would probably be Hannaford. Who else in the village?
Yeah, even right now, there may not be another employer.
So we don't need to have 2.
Don't need to.
Okay.
It's up to.
Up to 2.
It's up to 2.
Gotcha.
But we knew Franklin Foods would qualify for that. It's something we had been talking with them for a while about. We had in the past had a special rate, which is a little different than this, but it was called a special rate agreement. That was also approved by the PUC, but that had expired over time. So this was another proactive effort we were trying to make, to keep our largest private employer in the community, happy.
Considering they're our highest grossing employer and other than the school district, really the only one we have,
Right,
keeping them is crucial.
right. So this was something they expressed interest to us in, so the board agreed last year to file this pilot program tariff with the PUC. We did that this spring, and last week we received approval from the Public Utility Commission for it, so I think that's great. We just wanted to make you guys aware of that.
They still moving ahead with their digester power generating?
I'm probably not the best person to give the update on the digester. I believe that it's in hiatus at the moment. I don't know a lot about.
I kept getting things in the
what
mail because of a neighboring property owner,
Mhm.
so then they just stopped. I hadn't heard any more about it.
Yeah, and I haven't either. I haven't heard anything for a while from Franklin Foods about the digester. So, again, that's a Franklin Foods
Right.
project, it's not a village project, I don't want to speak out of line here, but to my knowledge, I think they may have put that on the back burner for the moment. But,
There's been a lot of back burner stuff in the last
Oh,
year and a
yeah.
half.
well, it's been a difficult time with the pandemic going on for everybody. And that's it for the manager's report.
All right, thank you, John. What do we have for other business tonight? Nothing?
Record?
You guys are really trying to get out of here, huh?
Record evening.
Well, if there's
Do
no
we have
other
any
business-
idea how much money we got out of those 76 tickets?
Oh, no.
Well,
Not
no,
trombones, tickets.
we don't actually get the money anymore, it goes to the town
Oh, okay.
now because the
Hopefully
town
they got some.
picks up the law enforcement contract, so all the fine money goes to the
Oh.
town to help offset
I
that.
have a question. At the beginning of the season, when the SRO from school was going to be not at school for the summer and wasn't going to be working for the summer, there was some question if maybe the village, this was before I was here, the village might pick him up for the summer. Did anything ever come of that?
We all need money for that.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
Couldn't afford it?
To be honest, it was kind of sprung on us. Like
Oh, okay.
around town meeting day, like, oh, we're not gonna do this, and
yeah.
we're hoping you guys can.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
That's great, but our budget's already set, so
Yeah.
it
Yeah, the
Okay.
town.
would have been something
So
to
let's
give us
come
some
and
time
answer that way.
January, not March, so. But yeah, no. Not that I'm aware of.
Vital Village? Survey?
Yep, survey is complete. The management team has not met on the results of that yet. We're going to be meeting on the 20th and planning after that meeting to have the management team sort of dissect and analyze the data from that survey, having a presentation at which DuBois King would also be present, and give that presentation to the Board of Trustees along with a discussion about the results of the survey.
Will that be at a regular board meeting or a special meeting?
Regular board meeting, we're planning on doing that. So if D&K feels comfortable, maybe your next meeting which would be the 27th, if they feel comfortable doing that.
Should we get a bigger room?
I was just gonna ask that.
I guess that's up to you guys if you think we're gonna have large attendance.
I was
There's only 8 chairs.
and especially
Yeah,
the
we can get more, we can get another row of seats in here
tight,
pretty
though.
easily, but I
library.
mean, if you're thinking, we can get about 15 people in here, but if you're
It's pretty
thinking,
close.
if you're thinking we're gonna have more than 15, then maybe we should.
Well, I don't know, depending on
If we advertise.
a lot of things,
Yeah.
I guess.
If we advertise a Vital Village
I have some
study, I guess survey.
odd thoughts
recap.
about it.
Yeah, I think we should definitely make sure that we, people are very aware of that on the agenda item and that it should be open and welcoming. I think a second row in here, I've seen it, but it is really super tight.
I was gonna say, if that's the case, if we do go down that route, I would suggest moving the meeting to either the library or maybe the emergency services building. I suspect there's gonna be quite a few people.
The library is now open until 7 p.m. just to the public on weekdays now.
Well, if your meeting started at 7, at least most people would have had dinner.
They still doing the daycare at the Legion?
Yes, the daycare is still at the Legion.
Okay, so I'm hearing whenever we get that agenda item set up, whether it's the 27th meeting or the following, which would be August 10th, you would like to have it at a larger venue.
I think that would be
Okay,
smart.
so I can make some calls to,
I'd rather have too much room than not enough.
yeah.
We can all yell.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, if you
Yeah.
are aware
To be
of
accommodating.
something that, we might get more than 15 people for
Well,
that.
I mean, I personally, and it is just I personally, feel that the results are skewed and may have been salted.
Okay, that's pretty strong language.
Yeah, it is. But we
would-
never know with surveys, they're
Well, I would save
internet
those,
surveys.
I would save those kinds of comments, I guess, for when D&K is present.
So I'm thinking that we
So
might
that
have a
they can
number of
hear
people
those.
that might be here.
And ideally, the community will be involved in this conversation. It's what we
Right.
want, it's representative of the community, so we definitely want some of the community members that want to be part of it to be there.
I think they were the driving force behind why we had the survey in the first place, so we would need to include them in the results.
I think the emergency services building is probably the largest space with, and also, gives us the most air.
Yeah.
The library is pretty good sized, but the chairs that they have to put in are still all, and
The
it's
only
more.
minor issue with the emergency services building is Tuesday night's fire meeting. So you guys could
that's
be
right.
running the equipment and whatnot.
Is that every Tuesday?
Yeah.
The library is at least walkable to
True.
people who don't have
Yes,
transportation.
it is.
Yeah, either one of those locations should work. I mean, we've had meetings up there when they have their fire meetings.
Yeah, I
It's
know,
not
I
an
just-
issue.
Saying it.
The only time it's an issue is when there's a joint meeting, maybe Joey, who's on the other side. But
Okay, well, I don't know what the town's policies are right now I know that the emergency services has been closed to the public for a long
It's,
time.
I believe it's open again.
It is,
But
okay.
I don't
So-
know if it's limited or if it's, completely open to the public again, but it is not completely closed anymore.
well, they've been holding their meetings there, so.
Yeah, I think the select board has, but closed to the public. I think just
Yes,
the
it's
board
select.
has been meeting there.
That's
But they haven't been letting people in, but I'll put some calls in, and see what the options are, see if
so you don't own
emergency
that space.
services is available, see if the library is available. and-
We can find somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah,
What about
there's
the
gotta be
Orange
another
Hall
place we
thing?
can get more people in it.
Well, that's a possibility. Leonard just mentioned the Catholic Church Parish Hall as well. I mean, because you need a place that's gonna have all of the chairs that we need. you know, you just mentioned the Morass building and it's a, you know, it's privately owned, but they're also, it doesn't come equipped with 50 folding chairs.
Mhm.
I like you guys, but I'm not gonna set up 50 folding chairs.
I'm sure we could use it downstairs at the lodge too. Use it on.
We'll find somewhere, I'm sure.
It'll work.
Just went back,
I'll make some calls and see what I can,
It's
Nice.
nice.
what I can find.
Yeah, have it in the park. Just have it in the park.
for Hardin Park.
We need a permit for that one.
That's nothing to do with
I think we
the
have time to
original.
get on the agenda.
I think you could get one.
I move we waive the permit.
Alright. Anything else for other business? Or are we all trying to get out of here? If that's the case, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Do that with the
I'll
first,
second that.
I with the second, all those in favor say aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Those opposed nay.